Ever catch yourself thinking about all the stuff your body's doing right now that you don't even have to think about? It's kind of wild when you really let it sink in.
It really is.
But speaking of wild, we're diving into some seriously next-level research today. We're talking blood pressure, and this one's a real eye-opener.
It is fascinating how our bodies manage to keep everything in balance, and blood pressure. It's way more complex than just your heart working hard. We're talking a whole network of hormones, nerves, and even the health of your blood vessels factors in.
Right. And we always thought we had a decent handle on one of the key players in the system, renin. This hormone swoops in when blood pressure dips and essentially gets the orchestra back in sync, right? Like, picture this, renin, coming from specialized cells in the kidneys. That was the understanding, end of story.
Right.
Until now, that is, this research you sent, it throws a real curveball into that whole idea.
Yeah, this is a big one. What's really amazing here is that researchers at the University of Virginia School of Medicine, they discovered that other cells, specifically some in the walls of your arteries, they can actually transform themselves, like they switch jobs and start churning out renin on demand.
Hold on, cells can change careers now. Like, they've got a whole side hustle we never knew about. This is blowing my mind. How do these cells suddenly remember how to make renin if it's not their everyday gig?
And that's where things get really interesting. And this is what could have huge implications down the line for, everybody listening. It's all about understanding the genetic and what we call epigenetic factors that are actually controlling this cellular transformation. Imagine, almost like a light switch.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Certain genes can actually act like that switch, flipping renin production on or off in these cells. It's a whole new level of control we're talking about here.
And the fact that these researchers, they actually pinpointed 9 specific genes involved, that's what makes this feel so real. You know what I mean? But before we get ahead of ourselves, what's the big deal about these genes? What are they actually doing in there?
Well, think of these 9 genes almost like an air traffic control team. They're carefully managing 3 very important biological pathways. And they're the reason that these cells are always poised, ready to activate renin production the very second your body needs it. So they may not be actively churning out renin all the time, but they're on high alert, ready to jump into action.
So for everyone listening, this means there's this whole intricate mechanism working behind the scenes, constantly making sure your blood pressure stays balanced without you even realizing it, like having a crack team of responders, just in case. But what does poised actually look like in this context?
Well, it's not as if the cells are just sitting there doing nothing.
It's more like they're laying low, but they're prepped and ready to flip that switch when they get the signal.
Exactly. It's all about being responsive, to what your body needs at any given moment. If these cells were just constantly churning out renin, it would throw your whole system out of whack. These genes, they're the reason these cells can walk that tightrope, staying ready to act, but not overdoing it.
Now, this might seem like we're going down a rabbit hole here, but the article you sent mentions something called an epigenetic switch. Does that have something to do with this poised state we've been talking about?
Absolutely. And this is where it gets even more fascinating for, you listening. Think of it like this. Your genes, they're the hardware, right? The basic blueprint. But epigenetics, that's the software. It determines how that hardware actually gets used, which genes get turned on, turned off, cranked up or down.
Okay, so I think I'm following this. Like, epigenetics is the conductor of an orchestra, deciding which instruments play and when.
Exactly. And in this case, those epigenetic factors, they're controlling that light switch we were talking about. The one that flips those 9 renin-controlling genes on or off in those smooth muscle cells. They're deciding, essentially, whether a cell stays quiet or steps into that renin-producing role.
So for you, that means that these epigenetic factors, they could be the key to making sure your blood pressure stays perfectly balanced without your body, going into overdrive, causing unwanted side effects. This is starting to feel like a whole new frontier in how we even understand blood pressure. But I'm also thinking, beyond just understanding, what does this discovery actually mean for treating blood pressure?
That's the really exciting part. This isn't just about understanding how your body works. It's about unlocking a whole new way to approach treatment, one that could be a real game changer for how you manage your health. Imagine being able to target those very specific epigenetic factors directly.
We're talking about potentially fine-tuning your blood pressure at a level we could only dream of before, right? No more sledgehammers, just precise adjustments.
Precisely. A lot of the blood pressure medications that are available now, they work, but they often come with a whole laundry list of side effects. And this discovery, it opens up the possibility of medications that actually work with your body's natural systems, not against them.
This is all super exciting, but it gets even more interesting when we consider other conditions, like kidney fibrosis, which the research also touched on a bit.
And that's a perfect example of why this research is so groundbreaking. Kidney fibrosis, which is essentially scarring of the kidney tissue. It's often linked to chronic high blood pressure, right? And it turns out that this overproduction of renin from any source can actually contribute to that scarring process.
So by understanding how to control renin production, like at this incredibly detailed cellular level, are we talking about potentially preventing or even reversing kidney fibrosis down the line?
You got it. This is why this seemingly small discovery about cells changing jobs could have such a monumental impact. We're talking about potentially transforming how we treat a whole range of conditions.
This is incredible, and it really highlights how crucial it is to understand these mechanisms down to the tiniest detail. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's talk about what this all means for the millions of people who are already taking medication, for high blood pressure. Does this change anything for them right now?
Well, it could definitely change how those medications are managed in the future. One of the biggest challenges with the drugs that are currently available are those side effects. And often, those side effects are a direct result of how the body responds when you start messing with the renin system, essentially.
So even though the medication is doing its job, lowering blood pressure, it could be setting off a chain reaction elsewhere, like hitting one of those giant carnival trip hammers, but accidentally triggering a whole other cascade of events at the same time.
That's a great analogy, and that's where this discovery comes in. By understanding really the intricate workings of this cellular switch for renin production, we can start to see those side effects in a whole new light.
So instead of that one-size-fits-all approach, we could see more personalized treatment plans, maybe even fine-tuning those existing medications to work with the body's natural systems, not against them.
Exactly. Imagine being able to minimize those side effects, making treatment more effective and, more importantly, more tolerable for, millions of people. This research really does open up a world of possibilities.
This whole thing really drives home just how much we still don't know about our own bodies. You know what I mean? We're talking about blood pressure here. This system is as essential as it gets, and we're still uncovering these really fundamental truths about how it operates, even at the cellular level. It's incredible.
It really is. And I think it really speaks to the power of scientific curiosity and digging deeper into these really intricate mechanisms. We've essentially stumbled upon this hidden passageway in a house we thought we knew inside and out. And who knows what other secrets are waiting to be uncovered.
Makes you wonder what other hidden talents our cells might have, right? Maybe our immune cells moonlight as choreographers. Or brain cells are secretly composing symphonies. Okay, maybe that's a bit out there. But the point is, this discovery has been a wild ride. Who knew that a tiny switch in a single cell could have such huge implications for our health?
It's a perfect example of how these seemingly small changes can have a ripple effect, really, throughout your entire body.
Well, on that note, we'll leave you with this thought. If something as simple as a cell changing jobs can completely rewrite how we understand blood pressure, what other incredible discoveries are right around the corner? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into, really, the intricate world of your own biology. We'll catch you next time when we uncover even more fascinating insights from the world of cutting-edge research.